Resourceful Designer, episode 207, When Forced to Work from Home.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He thinks his wife is the most beautiful woman in the world, but admits he may be biased. Mark Dakeout.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this week it's supposed to be the fourth and final part of my definitive guide to starting a home-based design business. However, in lieu of what is happening in the world right now with COVID-19, also known as coronavirus, I'm putting that episode off until next week. And I want to talk instead on how to manage it if you are forced to work from home. I'm also going to share a tip that might be a silver lining on the world's current events. Now, what have I been up to? Well, I'm playing catch-up this week. I was away at a podcast conference, PodFest, last week in Florida, and I had a great time. I gave a presentation on the importance of having good podcast cover artwork and how good artwork can actually help grow your show. And I had some great feedback afterwards. I had many people ask some great questions. A lot of people came and asked me for my business card when I was done. And I heard afterwards from other people that they've heard good things about my presentation. So fingers crossed that I actually get a few new clients out of it. So far, nothing, but you never know. But even if I don't get any new clients, I was there just to help spread the name. And it's nice to get my name out there. More and more people in the podcast space now know me as the specialist when it comes to podcast design. And that could only help grow my business in the future. So it was well worth it. But now I'm back, and I've actually put myself in a little bit of self-quarantine, if you will. See, since coming home, I've developed a little bit of a sniffle, nothing more than that. But since I was around a couple of thousand people, and some of them had traveled from all over the globe to be at the conference, I figured it's probably better to be safe than sorry. And, well, since I work from home, it's not really that much of a big deal anyways. The hardest part is not seeing my dad. I haven't seen him since before I left on my trip, and he'll be turning 93 years old soon. He lives in a nursing home nearby, and he suffers from extreme dementia. He does remember me, and he remembers people, but a conversation that he has 2 minutes later, he doesn't remember the conversation. So he's got no short-term memory whatsoever. So I find it a little tough. I normally go see him at least 2 or 3 times per week, but because of this little sniffle that I'm feeling, I'm actually holding off visiting him until I know that I'm okay. As I said, he's 93 years old, and there's no sense risking anything by going to visit him and everybody else that's at the nursing home. So that's a little bit of what's happening right now in my life. Now, if you're looking for a virus-free place to interact with great designers, why not give the Resourceful Designer community a try? Everyone in the community is making great strides with their business, with the help and the encouragement of all the other members. They've been sharing their work. They've been asking for advice. One member just launched his brand new website with our help. And overall, they tell me that they feel like, or should I say, we all feel like we belong to something very special by being community members. Now, if you're looking for something like that, for a group of designers who are willing to help and share in your wins, then why not give the community a try? Visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community. And now this week's tip of the week. And this tip is to reach out to your clients and see if they need any special material pertaining to COVID-19 or coronavirus. Now, if you want to reach out and try to make some money off of it, great, but this is a perfect opportunity. Design a generic poster and offer to share it with all your clients and just change up the heading so that it's their brand on it. And at the bottom of the poster, put your own information, your website and your logo, and make something that just kind of says good practices. Things like information about the virus or how to take care of yourself or washing your hands and all that stuff. The type of thing that some businesses may want to put in their window. Well, if you design something like this for free, and as I said, you can make one poster and send it off to everybody and just change the logo that appears at the top so it's theirs and put your information at the bottom, your clients will appreciate because it's a useful freebie that they can put up, and they'll appreciate you for actually thinking of them and supplying this. So it's a great marketing tactic You design one poster, share it out with all your different clients. Even if they didn't ask for it, you just send it to them and say, if you're like this, I can switch the logo at the top and include your own branding on it, and then you can put it up in your own door, your own windows, or whatever. So there's a thought that can help get your name front and present in your clients' minds. So that's this week's tip of the week. And now, when you're forced to work from home. I'm recording this episode on Friday, March 13th, 2020. And in the last 24 hours, just about every sports organization around the globe has either canceled or suspended play. Broadway has closed down all performances. Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Paris, and Universal Studios have all shut their doors for the remainder of the month. Even Mount Everest has shut down to climbers for the rest of the year. When one of the most remote places on Earth shuts down, you know the situation is serious. And it's kind of ironic that right in the middle of a series on how to start a home-based design business, this pandemic happens, forcing many businesses to ask their employees to self-isolate and work from home. Now, I know that a lot of the information that I share on this podcast will be useful in this situation, but some things are a bit different in this case. Now, you may be my target listener, someone who is starting or currently running a home-based design business. Then it's pretty much same old for you. You're already at home, you're already pretty well isolated, so there's not much different. However, I also know that many of my listeners are not self-employed. If you listen to this podcast and you're still in school, or you're an employee working for someone else with no immediate intention of starting your own business, first of all, thank you for listening. But most importantly, the thought of working from home may scare you or may stress you out. Well, it doesn't have to. I want to share some advice to help you get through this temporary job relocation until you get the all clear and you can return to your normal office life. Now, of course, a lot of what I'm going to share has been covered in past podcast episodes before, but a lot of it is worth repeating here. So number one, set yourself a schedule. Working from home is very different than working in an office environment. Without that formal structure, it can be very easy to lose track of time and to become less productive. A schedule will help you stay on track and help you get your work done. And the great thing is, your home schedule doesn't have to follow your regular work schedule. You can adjust your home-based schedule for the times that you're most productive. If you're not a morning person, then shift your schedule an hour or so and sleep in a little bit. If you normally commute to work and you leave the house at 8 a.m. in order to start your 9-to-5 job, why not start working directly at 8 a.m.? Then you can finish at 4 p.m., put in the same amount of work hours, and without the commute, you've saved yourself 2 extra hours that day that you can use. Now, of course, when working from home, if you do have an employer, they may want you to work special hours, so you need to work what your boss needs you to work. And you also have to be conscious of what times you may need to communicate with clients, with contractors, with coworkers. It's great to be able to say, well, I'm going to start working once the kids are in bed and start working at 9 p.m., but if you have to communicate with clients and coworkers, they're not going to appreciate that. So even though you can adjust your schedule, don't expect them to follow suit. So keep that in mind. Now, tip number 2 is make a to-do list. Since working from home is out of your element, and since there's nobody there keeping an eye on you, the best thing you can do is make yourself a to-do list and adhere to it. Identify what you need to accomplish each day and check off each item as you do it. You'll feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, and it will hold you accountable and make sure you're using your time productively. Now, I did talk a lot more in episode 66 of the podcast, which was titled Tackle Your To-Do List with Tasks and Projects. So if you want to know more about a to-do list, go back and listen to that episode. Now, the third tip is to find a dedicated work area. Now, I know I talked about creating your workspace just 2 episodes ago as part of my definitive guide to starting a home-based design business series. But if this is only a temporary thing, there's no need to follow all of the advice that I did give. However, I will state that your bed or your sofa is still not a good location to work from home, even on a temporary basis. Lounging on a sofa with your laptop on your lap may sound nice and relaxing, but it does not lead to productivity. In your case, your kitchen or dining room table is acceptable as a workspace if you don't already have a desk to work at. Wherever you choose to work, the more you make it feel like a work environment, the more you'll feel like working. Also, inquire with your company, your boss. Ask them if there's any sort of allowance or budget to help you out. Sitting at a kitchen chair all day is not going to be comfortable. Well, your company that you work for may be able to either purchase you a chair or even rent you a good office chair for you to use while you're working from home, or they may be able to ship you one from the office that you can use until it's time to go back. The same goes for your computer equipment. If your computer at home isn't powerful enough or you don't have the proper equipment, find out if your employer can supply it to you for you to do your job. Believe me, if your employer wants you to be productive while they're paying you to work from home, they'll most likely be willing to invest a bit of money to ensure you can do the work well. Now, tip number 4 covers meetings. When working from home, any normal office or client meetings will most likely take place over video if they're not canceled altogether. Well, maybe video is something you're not used to, so here are a few tips. If you're in a conference call with several people, make sure you acknowledge your presence. Just announce, it's like, hey, I'm here. Sure, they can see your avatar or they can see your video and see that you're there, but just the fact of acknowledging that you're there lets them know that not only are you just there, but you're actually focusing on the meeting. It's very different than when you're in person. Also, acknowledge the other people who are there as well. When the meeting's starting, say hi to the other people, just like you would in a normal chit-chat live meeting. If you would normally say hi to everybody as they come into the meeting, do the same thing on the virtual one. Now, if you're not familiar with video conferencing platforms, the two that I use are Skype and Zoom. All Resourceful Designer community chats take place over Zoom, and I love that platform for this sort of thing. And you can also try loom.com, which allows you to send video emails to people. This is great for, say you have to present something to your boss, but you don't actually have a conversation. You don't need that conversation. You just have to present or tell them something. Well, instead of writing out an email and making sure everything's written properly, just record a quick video and send it to them. It would be just like you walked into their office and just said, hey boss, needed to tell you this. And it'll feel more like you're actually at work. Now, tip number 5 is dealing with isolation. For someone who's not used to working from home, it can get lonely, especially if it goes on for several weeks. And we don't know at this time how long this whole coronavirus thing is going to go on. They say you should self-isolate for a minimum of 14 days. But what if things get worse and they ask you to stay home for a month or so? If you live by yourself, that can get pretty lonely. Now, I did have an episode 105 of the podcast, which was titled Coping with Isolation When Working From Home. So you may want to go back and listen to that one. But here are a few quick tips taken from that episode that I'll share with you today. 1, go outside. Even if there's nobody around, just getting outside of your house, whether it's going out your front door, going to stand on a balcony, whatever, going for a walk around the block, that alone can help ease the feeling of isolation. 2, move your workspace. If things start getting dreary because you're not leaving, you're working, you're living at home and all that, try working in different locations on different days. Work for a couple of days in your kitchen, then move to your living room. Maybe move to the bedroom if you have a desk in there. Changing up your environment, even if it's within your own home, can help you feel less isolated. It makes it feel like it's different every day. It's not the same thing, dreary over and over. 3, call your coworkers and colleagues. Find out what they're working on. Ask them what they're up to. Update them on your progress. It's the same conversations you would be having if you were back in the office. You'd be passing them in the hallways or stopping at the water cooler and asking about things. Well, there's no reason to stop those conversations just because you're working from home. Take a few minutes, call your coworkers and colleagues and catch up. It'll help energize you. 4, engage on social media. Or better yet, become part of an online community like the Resourceful Designer community. I mean, those of us in the Resourceful Designer community talk to each other on a daily basis. It's one of the ways that we all cope with the loneliness of working all by ourselves every day. And 5, and I know this may sound crazy, try talking to yourself. Sometimes just hearing a voice, even if it's your own voice, can help ease the stress of being alone. I do that from time to time. As I get up, walk around the house, I'll talk to myself, or I have a dog and a cat here, so I'll talk to them. And just hearing that voice sometimes makes me feel good, even if it is my own voice. And even if I am saying some pretty stupid things at the time, it still makes me feel good. So those are the tips with coping with isolation. Now back to number 6 on my overall list is if you have kids at home, then working from home may be a struggle. Because especially in this situation, there's a good chance that your children's school will also be closed. So not only do you have to deal with working from home, but you have to deal with the kids being home at the same time. The first thing you need to do is explain to them that even though you are at home, you are actually working. And you can explain this to young kids right up to old, to teenagers, and they will get it. Now, this may not be the best parenting advice, but if you have to do some work, let your kids watch TV. Let them play video games. If you can, get them to read a book or play a board game. Anything to distract them that will let you get some work done. But make sure to check in on them on a regular basis. Obviously, less so with older kids, but if you have younger kids that are not within eyesight, if you have really young kids, you may want to keep them in eyesight. But other kids, check on them every 30 to 60 minutes or so and make sure that everything's okay. And I talked about creating a schedule. That was my number 1 tip. If you have kids, make time in the schedule to set breaks throughout the day and spend some quality time with them before getting back to work. You can't expect a child to ignore you for 8 hours out of the day. So set 15, 20, 30-minute breaks throughout the day to go play a little with them. Go talk with them. Watch a little bit of TV with them. Just spend some time with them, and they'll appreciate that. And then they can take a break from spending time with you and get back to whatever they were doing while you get back to work. And if that means extending your workday by an hour or so, it may be worth it. So be sure to acknowledge your presence. Let them know that yes, you are there, but you are working, but you are there for them if need be. Show interests in what they're doing. So when you come out, don't just go and check and make sure they're okay. Go make sure that they know that you see what they're doing, see what they're up to, acknowledge what they're doing, and make sure to let them know how much you appreciate them allowing you time to work. And again, this applies to young kids right up through teenagers. Let them know that you appreciate the time that they are allowing you to work. And 7, avoid distractions. Working from home is great. I love it. I would not want to live any other life. But one of the fallbacks is that there are so many distractions that comes with working in the same place that you live. You may want to throw in a load of laundry. You may decide that it's time to empty the dishwasher. Or at lunch, maybe you're going to take extra time to prepare and cook a nice lunch. These are all things that you wouldn't normally be doing if you were at your office. So try to avoid doing them while you're working from home. Treat your work time and your home time differently, even if they are both happening at the same place. And one last thing, I guess you can call this tip number 8, is take advantage of this opportunity. If you want to dress casually while working at home or even stay in your pajamas, then go ahead. You have a video call? Throw on a nice shirt. Doesn't matter if you're wearing pants or not. They won't know. Don't feel like shaving or doing your hair or putting on makeup? It's no big deal, unless, of course, you have a video call. These are all perks of working from home. You want to catch up on one of your Netflix shows during your lunch hour? Why not? Just make sure when the lunch hour is done, you shut it off and you get back to work. So use this opportunity. Learn what it feels like to work from home and figure out if this is something you may like to do on a permanent basis. Who knows? This pandemic may turn out to be a blessing in disguise and propel you to a future life of entrepreneurship where you will start your own design business. You never know. So let me know your thoughts on working from home, if it's not something you already do, or just let me know what you think of the pandemic. Leave me a comment for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 207. So next week, I'll be back on track and bring you the 4th and final part of my definitive guide to starting a home-based graphic design business. In the meantime, if you want to follow my tip of the week, Create a poster or even some online stuff, digital material that you can share with your clients for them to share out about the coronavirus. They will appreciate the effort for their clients, and they will appreciate you for offering it to them. And if you do want to join a community that will help you deal with isolation and talk with some great graphic designers who are willing to help you in your business, why not consider the Resourceful Designer community at resourcefuldesigner.com/community. So that's it for this week. Stay safe, follow all the advice they're giving, stay at least a meter or a yard apart from anybody if you do happen to go out. Make sure you wash your hands on a regular basis. Soap and water is much better than hand sanitizer, but hand sanitizer is great in a pinch. And avoid large gatherings until this whole situation gets under control. So that's it for me. I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your graphic design business, or with your stint working at home if you're normally at an office. Good luck and let me know how it goes. Until next time, stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.